I'm George Galbreath. I am a full-time artist and a full-time teacher. I gotta give my mom credit for opening the gates and allowing me to be an artist. She's a high school educator as well. Went from being an English teacher all the way up to assistant superintendent. You know, she always just told me it was okay to be an artist. Like, she's like, what can I do to help and support with that? The decision and the challenge of going to Howard University, that was the commitment to full-time professional artists that we needed. I remember selling my first piece of artwork. We were in church, Progressive Missionary Baptist Church in Columbia, Missouri, where I'm from. She used to always let me draw during church because that was the only way I would sit still and quiet. And I was drawing a picture of Jesus on a crucifix, and someone leaned over and said, "Man, that's good. Can I buy that for $1?" You know, I sold it in church, which is probably not, you know, sacrilege or something, but it felt pretty amazing to have that experience even at, I think I might have been like 8 or 9. As I grew up, I became that kid, like the kid that could do anything with crayons and wouldn't take a nap in nursery school until you let him draw, or that kid in high school that drew everybody's Valentine's Day cards. So I always wanted to be an architect. I thought that was going to be where my artistry came out. And then I realized how much math you need to put into that. And I realized, I think actually pretty early, probably about 6th or 7th grade, that was not going to happen. Even there was a time when I said, okay, graphic design will work. And I majored in that at Howard University. I got my Bachelor's of Fine Art in graphic design. That didn't work out either, because the idea of constantly learning new software and just having to reteach yourself and keep up with the technology, that was too much as well. So painting, drawing, that was my gig. I love movies. I remember when my mom went back to get her master's degree, she bought this big TV and she kind of like just set it in front of me. Like, you know, I didn't know that was gonna be my best friend for a while, right? I even fell in love with cinema, but it was funny because I wasn't gonna learn a lot from Rambo, right? But I watched her movies, okay? So, I mean, my favorite movie is Color Purple, Still Magnolias, Fried Green Tomatoes, like these movies that had some, you know, there were some moral things to learn about history and everything, right? Once I moved to DC for undergrad, I saw architecture that reminded me of movie scenes and movie sets. Like, there wasn't a lot of that in central Missouri, right? Walking through DC, I fell in love with structure. When I was younger and little, I used to love bridges. Then moving to Atlanta and realizing that movie set changes all the time. I mean, I'm in love. You know, I walk 7-8 miles on the weekend just through the city, looking at how it constantly changes. And those structures find their way into my artwork. I obviously love color, right? It's like it's all around in my home, on me. But painting non-objective color, like in my backgrounds, or embracing color in my middle ground of my compositions and whatnot, it allows me to kind of explore my joy, my happiness. There was a show called Halcyon Days that my wife had curated, George Galbreath, along with Sharon Dennehy. It was called Halcyon Days because everyone in the show was basically representing better days. Like, it was almost like looking forward to better days, looking back at better days. I realized that was the source of my bright colors in my work, regardless of whether I'm painting images of dilapidated projects that have been left to the side in the community, regardless of whether I'm painting church renderings or a Georgia Archives building that's no longer there that I thought was gorgeous. Those can be kind of sad to look back at what's missing. But the color is gonna draw you in as the viewer. It might make you feel happy about it, even though you're dealing with fairly heavy subject matter and kind of taking that in. The artistic process can be a little intimidating at times. It can be stressful sometimes, especially when you're trying to meet a deadline. And what I realized is that the color and use of color, and especially the way I use it, it's my fun part. It's my recess, you know? So anytime I don't feel like finishing a piece, I'll go and paint a background. And it won't represent anything except for how I'm feeling right then. Even on dark days, like even when I'm going through a lot, the darkest color might be a turquoise, right? So I do appreciate that experience, but I also understood why it was a distraction for viewers. So big work scares the bejesus out of me, right? That's my Achilles heel, but I've got good people around me. And Sohei, I remember Najee Henderson, Azukai, Kevin Cole. Gosh, just any artist that I've ever worked with that cares about me said, go bigger. Because I used to work like this, and that would be my ideal size. I mean, I would crank those things out, instant gratification, and they were beautiful. Like, you know, they were statement pieces, but they were like 10 by 10, 8 by 8, you know, working large with the murals, like on Peter Street. We got another one in Buckhead. Starting to work with digital renderings that, you know, we could blow up on the side of 6-story tall buildings. Those things scare me, you know, but I'm gonna keep pushing through, and I'm gonna keep embracing it, because I know that the larger it is, the more people are gonna see it. Plain and simple, and we need to get the work out there. One of the things that I found about artists is that, you know, they want people to know their secret sauce, right? One, I'm a teacher. And two, I felt like it was important to pull the curtain back and allow people to see behind the scenes. So one of the things that I love to do is to hire photographers, professional photographers, to explore these structures, explore these streets, these spaces that I'm about to render, because getting a photographer who's already an artist to envision like that composition first sets my work up for even more success, right? Like the goal is to make this finalized fine art piece out of a space that might be an old abandoned house. But because of the fact that a photographer has said, okay, I really like us cutting off this portion of the yard and stopping here at this sidewalk and stopping here at the skyline, it gives me a vantage point to begin the work and to explore my color and my artistry the way I would once that piece is kind of like on its way. Going black and white with those images, I've noticed allows me a lot of freedom with my use of color. Not only will we go on these photo shoots, but then I'll try to work with a palette that won't be constrained by the natural color of that property. And, you know, hopefully what I'm trying to say with it. I would say that my artistry, or I guess even my place in the art community, really just speaks to the ecosystem. Sohei and I talk about how we teach the artists, like the young, they're not even emerging yet. They're trying to figure out if they even want to major in art in college or even go to college, right? Then we work with emerging artists, producing art exhibits with them and showing them how to hang for their first show, making sure their work is hang ready. Oh my God, that's the struggle, right? And then seeing them become not so much mid-career artists, but established. And then in our art collecting, you know, we're collecting mid-career artists, we're collecting emerging artists. You know, everyone in our collection is still alive, and thank God for that. But we do impact and see those individuals that are nearing, in a way, the end of their career. And then you just work your way right back around to the kids. So my place in the arts is to feed it. My voice as an artist is attempting to document what is here before it is gone. Plain and simple. I want people to be able to look back at my artwork and see some of the imagery of old Atlanta. Because I mean, you know, I know we talk about old Atlanta and new Atlanta. Been here 22 years, you know, not quite before the Olympics, but when I think about what was old in the 90s, I mean, gosh, we in 2020s, in the 2020s now, and we very much so are gonna look back at this like old Atlanta at some point, right? And there's so much that I've seen in that 20 years that is gone now. And I want to document that, and I want to basically have that available in my work for the next generation. My name is George Galbreath. I'm a high school art teacher and an artist, and this is my voice and my life.